The planet was nothing special. At least, that's what Jae-hoon thought when his survey shuttle first approached its barren surface. Radiation markers danced across his screen in angry red lines, warning of levels that would kill most living things within hours. But Jae-hoon wasn't most people. Born on a mining colony where survival was a daily challenge, he'd seen worse. Much worse. The shuttle's protective shields hummed softly, a constant reminder of the technology that kept him alive in environments that would crush ordinary humans. Outside the reinforced windows, the landscape looked like a nightmare of broken rocks and dust. Endless plains of gray and brown stretched in every direction, broken only by jagged mountain ranges that looked like broken teeth against the dim light of a distant sun. His mission was simple: conduct a geological survey and map potential mineral deposits. The Frontier Exploration Company paid well for information about planets most would consider worthless. Jae-hoon didn't mind. He'd learned long ago that value was something more than what showed up on a scanner. The shuttle touched down with a soft thud, kicking up clouds of fine, poisonous dust. Radiation levels were off the charts, a reading that would send most researchers running. But Jae-hoon just checked his suit's seals and prepared his equipment. Another day at the office. He moved slowly across the rocky terrain, each step careful and measured. Specialized sensors swept the ground, mapping geological formations and searching for mineral signatures. The suit's heads-up display flickered with constant readings: oxygen levels, radiation exposure, ground stability. Everything looked normal. Boring, even. Then something caught his eye. A small depression in the rock formation looked wrong, not natural. Jae-hoon had spent years exploring hostile environments, and he knew the difference between random geological formations and something that might be artificial. He approached carefully, switching his suit's scanners to a more detailed setting. The depression was partially hidden by layers of rock and dust. Most would have missed it completely, but Jae-hoon's instincts were sharp, honed by years of survival in the most unforgiving environments humanity had ever explored. He brushed away layers of rock, his gloved hand moving with practiced precision. The suit's sensors began to go crazy. Something was definitely not right. A faint energy signature, traces of atmospheric composition that didn't match the planet's surface. And then, a sound. So faint that at first, he thought he imagined it. A low, rhythmic vibration, almost like a heartbeat. Jae-hoon's hand froze. In all his years of exploration, he'd learned that unexpected sounds in hostile environments meant one of two things: danger or something extraordinary. He activated his suit's ground-penetrating radar. The display flickered, then resolved into an image that made his breath catch in his throat. Below the rocky surface was a network of tunnels, artificial tunnels, and they weren't empty. Something was alive down there. The radiation levels should have killed anything organic years ago. The surface temperature fluctuated between freezing and boiling. No atmosphere worth mentioning. No water. No apparent way any living thing could survive. And yet, Jae-hoon knew he had a choice. Follow standard protocol. Log the discovery. Send a report. Wait for a full research team. Or investigate now while he was here, with the equipment and skills to potentially save whatever was surviving in this impossible place. He thought about his parents, about the mining colony they'd died protecting, about survival against all odds. The choice was already made. With careful, deliberate movements, Jae-hoon began to prepare his equipment for an underground exploration. Whatever was waiting beneath the surface of this dead planet, he was going to find it. Little did he know, this moment would change everything. Jae-hoon wasn't born to be ordinary. His first breath was taken on Horizon 7, a mining colony balanced on the knife's edge of survival. Most people called it a death trap. To those who lived there, it was home. The colony sat on a planet with winds that could slice through metal, temperatures that changed faster than a heartbeat, and ground that shook with constant geological activity. Normal safety rules didn't apply. Here, every person learned to adapt or didn't survive long enough to tell the story. His father, Sung Park, was the colony's chief engineer, a man who could fix anything with nothing more than a multi-tool and pure determination. His mother, Yuna, was the medical officer who knew how to keep people alive in conditions that would kill most humans in minutes. They were a team in the truest sense. Two people who understood that survival was a collective effort. Jae-hoon learned his first survival skills before he could walk. By age 5, he knew how to seal a radiation leak, check environmental suits, and understand warning system alerts. Other children played with toys. He practiced emergency protocols and studied survival manuals. The colony was small, just 3,000 people living in a network of underground and surface habitats. They mined rare minerals from a planet that seemed to hate their very existence. Every day was a battle against nature, against the environment, against impossible odds. When Jae-hoon was 10, everything changed. A massive meteor storm approached Horizon 7. Planetary defense systems were old and barely functional. The colony's leaders knew they had limited time. Most would have panicked, but not the people of Horizon 7. His parents were at the center of the evacuation plan. Sung worked to reinforce the colony's protective shields. Yuna prepared medical supplies and organized emergency medical teams. Jae-hoon watched and learned, helping where he could. The first meteors hit like massive hammers. The ground shook. Alarms screamed. People moved with practiced efficiency, each person knowing exactly what to do. Jae-hoon helped guide younger children to safety, his small hand steady, his voice calm. But some meteors would get through. No amount of preparation could stop everything. One massive meteor broke through the colony's outer defenses. It was heading directly toward the main habitat, where hundreds of people were still trying to evacuate. In that moment, Sung and Yuna Park made a choice that would define their son's understanding of sacrifice. They redirected the colony's emergency shield, creating a last-second barrier that would save hundreds of lives. But doing so meant leaving themselves exposed. Jae-hoon watched as the meteor struck. He saw his parents' final act of protection. In that moment of terrible brightness and earth-shattering sound, he learned the most important lesson of his life. Survival isn't just about saving yourself. It's about saving others. He survived. The colony survived. But nothing would ever be the same. After the incident, Jae-hoon was raised by the colony's community. Every adult who had been saved by his parents felt a responsibility to the boy. They taught him everything they knew: engineering, medical skills, planetary survival techniques, navigation, and most importantly, the value of life. He excelled in everything. Top of his class in survival training. First in geological studies. Exceptional in xenobiology and environmental adaptation. The scars of his past, both physical and emotional, drove him to understand how life could survive in the most impossible conditions. The Frontier Exploration Company recruited him straight out of advanced training. They needed people who could go where others couldn't, people who understood that the universe was vast, dangerous, and full of mysteries waiting to be solved. And now, standing on this seemingly dead planet, with something alive beneath the rocky surface, Jae-hoon understood why he had been prepared for this moment his entire life. Some would call it luck. Others might say destiny. Jae-hoon just called it survival. The tunnel was narrow. Jae-hoon moved carefully, his suit's lights cutting through layers of darkness that seemed to push back against him. Every step sent small vibrations through the rocky ground. Something was different here. Something was alive. His communication system crackled. Interference was strong, but not complete. That meant technology, artificial construction. Hope flickered in his chest. The tunnel began to change. Smooth walls replaced rough rock. There were marks, not natural. These were purposeful lines, scratches that looked like writing, or maybe a map. Jae-hoon's training kicked in. He began to document everything. Then he heard it. A sound. Not a random noise. This was different. Breathing. Soft. Careful. Scared. Jaehoon stopped moving. In hostile environments, sudden movements could mean death. He spoke softly into his suit's communication system. "I'm not here to hurt anyone," he said. The words echoed slightly in the tunnel. The breathing stopped. His suit's thermal imaging showed something ahead. Small, very small, huddled against the tunnel wall. Living creatures that should not be alive. Not here. Not on this planet where everything said life was impossible. The Lyra were tiny, maybe half a meter tall. Their bodies looked fragile, covered in a soft, pale membrane that seemed to change color slightly with each movement. They had large eyes, too large for their small bodies, eyes that looked like they had seen too much. One of them stepped forward, or maybe stepped was the wrong word. It was more like a careful slide, a movement that spoke of fear and caution. Jaehoon's translation device began to work. It was old technology, designed for basic communication. Sometimes it worked perfectly. Sometimes it made no sense at all. "Who are you?" The voice was soft, scared, but also curious. Jaehoon kept his movements slow. "My name is Jaehoon," he responded. "I'm here to help." The creature looked at him. Those big eyes seemed to look through him, not just at him. "Help." The word came out like a question, like the concept was strange. More Lyra appeared. They moved together, a group that seemed to breathe as one. Jaehoon could see their living space now. It was a marvel of survival. Small chambers carved into rock. Limited resources carefully used. Technology that was old but maintained with incredible skill. "Our people are dying," the first Lyra said. No emotion, just a fact. "The Galactic Confederation has abandoned us." Jaehoon knew about abandonment. He knew about survival against impossible odds. His parents had taught him that life found a way, even when everything said it shouldn't. "Tell me," he said. "Tell me everything." And they did. The Lyra had once been a great civilization. Scientists, historians, builders of knowledge. But they were not warriors, not competitors in the great galactic economy. They studied, they learned, they preserved information. And then they were forgotten. Their planet had begun to die slowly. Radiation increased, resources disappeared. The Galactic Confederation, a massive group of space-traveling civilizations, saw no economic value in saving them. So they were left, ignored, forgotten. "We have less than 500 individuals left," the first Lyra said. Its large eyes never left Jaehoon's face. "We will be gone soon." Jaehoon felt something inside him break, and something else begin to form. A decision, a promise. Not on his watch. "No," he said simply. "Not if I can help it." The Lyra looked at him. For the first time, something like hope appeared in those large, sad eyes. First contact had just become something much more important than any mission Jaehoon had ever been given. This was about saving a species. This was about hope. Jaehoon's survey shuttle was never meant to be a rescue ship. It was a simple research vessel, designed to collect data and move quickly between planetary systems. Now it would become something more. He worked carefully. Every modification had to be perfect. The Lyra were fragile. One small mistake could kill them all. First, he adjusted the life support systems. The Lyra needed specific conditions: low radiation, controlled temperature, careful air mixture. Most ships couldn't handle such precise requirements. But Jaehoon had learned engineering from survivors. Impossible was just a word. He converted storage compartments into safe zones, used his geological knowledge to create artificial environments that mimicked the Lyra's underground home, added radiation shields, developed special containers that could keep the smallest members of the species safe during transport. The work took days. Every hour was a risk. The longer he stayed, the more chance someone would detect his unauthorized mission. The Galactic Confederation had strict rules. Species were classified, ranked, valued. The Lyra were at the bottom of that list. No rescue mission would ever be approved for them. They were considered too small, too weak, not important enough to save. Jae-hoon knew about being underestimated. He remembered his colony. People who survived where others said survival was impossible. "How many can we transport?" he asked the Lyra leader. The small creature looked tired, old beyond its years. 50, the leader responded. "If we are careful, if we are lucky." Luck was not something Jae-hoon believed in. He believed in preparation, in hard work, in making your own chances. He began to plan the most complex rescue mission in his career. The ship's computer would need complete reprogramming. Standard navigation systems wouldn't work. He'd need to create hidden routes, ways to avoid Confederation tracking, use asteroid fields, take paths that no normal ship would risk. Communication was another challenge. The Lyra had their own communication system. Soft sounds, color changes, movements that meant more than words. He worked to create translation devices that could capture these subtle signals. Food was a problem. The Lyra ate complex chemical mixtures, not normal food, not something you could buy in a space station market. He used the ship's advanced chemistry lab to create nutrition packets that would keep them alive. Each day, he saw the Lyra watching him. Their large eyes followed every movement. Hope and fear mixed together. They had been forgotten for so long, abandoned, left to die. Could they trust this human? Jae-hoon worked without rest. His parents had taught him that survival meant giving everything, not just for yourself, but for others. On the 5th day, everything was ready. "We can save 50, he told the Lyra leader. "But the journey will be dangerous." The leader looked at him. Those big eyes saw everything. "We have been in danger our entire existence," it said simply. "Danger is not new to us." Jae-hoon smiled. Some things were the same, no matter the species. The first group of Lyra began to prepare. 50 individuals, carrying their most important historical records, their scientific knowledge, the last remnants of a civilization that had survived against impossible odds. But the real challenge was just beginning. The Galactic Confederation did not like surprises, and they would not be happy about this rescue mission. Jae-hoon checked his navigation systems, plotted the most complex route possible, prepared for anything. Rescue was just the first step. Survival would be the real mission. The first test nearly killed everyone. Jae-hoon watched carefully as the Lyra moved into their specially designed transport chambers. Each chamber was a small world, controlled environment, precise radiation levels, carefully balanced temperature and air mixture. Everything had to be perfect. The first group was small, just 10 Lyra, the weakest, the oldest, those who might not survive a long journey. If something went wrong, they would be the first to know. Sensors blinked, warnings flashed. The ship's computer didn't like what was happening. Too many non-standard modifications, too many risks. "Stay calm," Jae-hoon told the Lyra. His voice was steady, but inside, he was worried. Temperature dropped in one chamber. Radiation levels spiked in another. The Lyra's delicate bodies began to react. Some turned different colors, a sign of stress in their species. Others made soft sounds that were more like music than words. Jae-hoon worked fast. His hands moved over control panels, adjusting, fixing, changing settings faster than most humans could think. One chamber began to fail. Radiation levels rose quickly. The small Lyra inside started to change color, from pale white to a sickly gray. Jae-hoon knew what that meant. They were dying. He made a choice in a split second, rerouted power from non-essential systems, pulled emergency radiation shields from other parts of the ship, sacrificed some areas to save others. The chamber stabilized. The Lyra looked at him. Those big eyes showed something new, not just fear, but something like trust. "We will need to modify again," the Lyra leader said. Not an accusation, just a fact. Jae-hoon nodded. "We have time," he responded. We will get this right. The next days were a battle against impossible conditions. The Lyra needed specific environments that no ship was designed to create. Their biology was complex. Their needs were specific. Jae-hoon used everything he had learned. Geological training helped him understand how to create stable environments. Medical knowledge from his colony helped him understand biological needs. Engineering skills allowed him to modify systems in ways they were never meant to be modified. He created special nutrition systems, developed ways to remove radiation without killing the Lyra, built protective shields that could adjust in milliseconds. Each test was a risk. Each modification could mean success or total failure. The ship's computer kept sending warning messages. Unauthorized modifications detected, it would say. Safety protocols violated. Jae-hoon ignored them all. Some modifications came from the Lyra themselves. They understood their own biology better than any human could. They showed Jae-hoon how their bodies reacted to different environments, shared knowledge that had kept them alive in their dying world. Slowly, carefully, they'd made progress. By the 10th test, they could keep a chamber stable for hours. By the 20th test, they could maintain perfect conditions for a full day. But time was running out. The Lyra's homeworld was dying faster. Radiation levels increased. Resources disappeared. Each day meant fewer survivors. We cannot wait much longer, the Lyra leader told Jae-hoon. He knew this was true. The final test would be their only chance. 50 Lyra. One ship. Millions of kilometers of dangerous space. Survival was not guaranteed. But for the first time, it was possible. Jae-hoon looked at the prepared chambers, at the Lyra waiting to be transported, at a mission that everyone said was impossible. "We're ready," he said. And he meant it. Darkness was their friend. Jae-hoon guided the ship through a maze of asteroids. Each movement was careful, slow, calculated. The ship's systems were pushed to their absolute limit. One wrong move would destroy everything. 50 Lyra were stored in special chambers. Each chamber was a tiny world, carefully controlled, perfectly balanced. Their survival depended on absolute precision. The rescue had begun at night. Darkness covered their escape. The Lyra's home planet looked like a dead rock from the outside. Nothing to see, nothing to notice. But they were moving, escaping. Jae-hoon's navigation system worked overtime. He used every trick he had learned, every skill from years of frontier exploration. The ship moved like a ghost, silent, invisible. Asteroid fields became hiding places. Radiation clouds became cover. Empty space sectors became secret routes. The first warning came 2 standard hours into the journey. A Confederation tracking signal. Distant, but getting closer. Jae-hoon didn't panic. Panic was not a survival skill. He adjusted the ship's systems, turned off non-essential communications, used special signal blockers, made the ship look like just another piece of space debris. The Lyra watched him. Their big eyes followed every movement. They understood danger. They had lived with danger their entire existence. "We are being followed," the Lyra leader said. Not a question, a fact. Jae-hoon nodded. "Not for long," he responded. He began to play a dangerous game, using the asteroid field like a shield, moving between large rocks, using gravitational pulls to change direction quickly, tricks that most pilots would never attempt. The tracking signal got closer, then stopped, then moved again. Jae-hoon knew what this meant. Someone was searching, trying to find them. One of the Lyra chambers began to show stress. Radiation levels started to change. Jae-hoon's hands moved quickly over the controls, redirecting power, adjusting shields, keeping the small creatures safe. Hours passed. Slowly, carefully, the ship became a living thing. Not just a machine, but a rescue vehicle, a home for 50 survivors. Jae-hoon didn't sleep, couldn't sleep. Every moment was important. Every second counted. The Confederation would be looking for him now. They did not like unauthorized missions. They did not like people who broke their rules. But Jae-hoon had learned long ago that some rules were meant to be broken. Another warning signal. Closer this time. A Confederation scout ship. Small. Fast. Designed to catch things that didn't want to be caught. Jae-hoon made a choice. He would not let them take the Lyra. The asteroid field became a battlefield. He used rocks as shields, used gravitational pulls like weapons, moved the ship in ways it was never designed to move. The scout ship was good, but Jae-hoon was better. He knew these spaces, had explored them before, understood how space moved, how gravity worked. One quick movement, a gravitational slingshot around a massive asteroid. The scout ship missed them by meters. Then they were gone. The Lyra made a sound, not words, but something like a group sigh. Relief. Hope. Jae-hoon checked the chambers. All 50 Lyra were safe, alive. "We are not done," he told them, "but we are moving." The ship continued its journey. Silent. Invisible. Carrying 50 lives that no one else thought were worth saving. Rescue was just the beginning. Survival would be the real challenge. The Confederation did not give up easily. 3 days into the escape, Jae-hoon knew they were in serious trouble. What started as a single scout ship had become a full pursuit. Multiple ships now tracked his location, each one faster, each one more dangerous. His ship was not built for long chases. Every system was already pushed to its limit. The Lyra's special chambers required constant maintenance. One system failure could kill everyone. The Lyra leader approached him. Those big eyes showed no fear, just determination. "They will not stop," the leader said. Jae-hoon checked the navigation system. They were approaching a dangerous sector. Lots of radiation. Unstable space conditions. Most pilots would avoid this area completely. Most pilots were not trying to save an entire species. "Hold on," he told the Lyra. Not a request. A warning. He began a series of impossible moves. The ship twisted, turned, dropped suddenly, climbed quickly, used gravitational pulls like a weapon. Navigation systems screamed warnings. Computer systems flashed red alerts. Jae-hoon ignored them all. The first Confederation ship got too close. He used a small asteroid as a weapon. Carefully calculated trajectory. Perfect timing. The asteroid hit the ship's wing. Disabled its tracking systems. One down, but more were coming. Radiation levels in the space sector began to rise. Most ships would turn back. The radiation was dangerous. Could destroy electronic systems. Damage life support. Jae-hoon saw it differently. Radiation could be a shield, a protection. He modified the ship's radiation shields, pushed them beyond normal limits, used techniques he learned from years of geological exploration. Every trick, every skill. The Lyra watched. They did not understand human technology completely, but they understood survival. Another Confederation ship approached. This one was larger, more dangerous, equipped with weapons that could destroy them in seconds. Jae-hoon made another choice. He flew directly into the most radioactive part of the space sector, conditions that would kill most pilots, destroy most ships. But his ship was different, modified, change, prepared for impossible conditions. The Confederation ships hesitated. Radiation levels were too high, too dangerous. Jae-hoon kept moving. His ship's systems began to fail, slowly, one by one. But he had backups. Emergency systems, ways to keep things running that no normal ship would have. The Lyra leader approached again. "We can help," it said. Jae-hoon looked confused. How could these small creatures help? The Lyra began to work. Their communication was different. Color changes, soft sounds, movements that meant more than words. They knew radiation, understood its patterns, had studied it for generations. Slowly, they helped Jae-hoon modify the ship's systems, used their scientific knowledge. their understanding of complex environmental conditions. The ship stabilized. The Confederation ships fell back. Radiation was too high. Risk was too great. But the pursuit was not over. Jehoon knew this was just the beginning. "We are not safe," he told the Lyra, "but we are moving." The ship continued its journey, damaged, modified, carrying 50 lives that no one else thought were worth saving. Survival was a team effort now, human and Lyra, working together, against impossible odds. Space looked empty, but Jehoon knew better. Empty spaces often held the most important secrets. His geological training had taught him that. What looked like nothing could be everything. The ship's systems were damaged, barely working. Radiation had taken its toll, but they were alive. 50 Lyra, 1 human, a ship that should not have survived. The Lyra leader worked with Jehoon. They studied star charts, looked for impossible places, locations that other species would ignore, places with specific conditions that most would consider worthless. "We need low radiation," the Lyra leader explained. "Stable ground, limited but specific mineral content, water sources underground." Jehoon understood. This was not just about finding a place to live. This was about finding a place to rebuild an entire civilization. Days passed. The ship moved slowly. Every system was a potential failure point. Jehoon worked constantly, fixing, repairing, keeping them alive. The Lyra helped. Their scientific knowledge was deep. They understood systems in ways humans did not. Color changes, soft sounds, communication that went beyond words. On the 10th day, something changed. A small planet appeared on the long-range scanners. Most would have ignored it. Rocky, small, no obvious resources. But Jehoon looked closer. Underground water systems, stable geological structure, minimal radiation, minerals that matched the Lyra's biological needs perfectly. "This could work," he said. The Lyra looked. Their big eyes studied the data. Generations of scientific knowledge worked through their minds. The leader nodded. "Possible," it said. Approaching the planet was not easy. The ship was weak, damaged from their escape. Every system fought against them. Jehoon used every skill he had learned. Geological knowledge, engineering tricks, survival techniques from his mining colony days. The landing was not smooth, but they survived. First scans were promising. Underground cavern systems, similar to the Lyra's original home. Water sources, stable temperature, limited but present radiation that matched their biological needs. "We will need to modify," the Lyra leader said, not worried, just stating a fact. Jehoon began preparations. The ship would become their first shelter. Its damaged systems could be repurposed, used to create initial living spaces. The Lyra began to work. They were scientists, builders, survivors. They mapped the underground cavern systems, found the best locations, studied water sources, mineral content, radiation levels. Days turned into weeks. Slowly, carefully, they created a home. Jehoon helped, but he knew this was their mission now, their survival. Small structures appeared, built from ship materials, modified to match Lyra biology. Scientific equipment set up, historical records preserved. The first Lyra children were born 3 months after landing. Small, fragile, but alive. Jehoon watched from a distance. He knew his role was changing. He had brought them here, saved them, but their future was their own. The Lyra leader approached him. "You saved us," it said, "but we will survive." Jehoon smiled. This was always the goal. A new civilization began, in a place no one else would have looked, saved by a human who understood that value was more than what showed up on a scanner. Survival was an art, and they had mastered it. 20 years passed. The small planet that once seemed empty now hummed with life. The Lyra had done more than survive. They had rebuilt, transformed. Underground caverns became complex cities. Scientific research centers grew. Historical archives expanded. A civilization that was almost lost now thrived. Jae-hoon watched from a distance. He had not stayed with them. His role was rescue. Their role was survival. But he was not forgotten. A massive memorial stood at the center of their main settlement. A statue of a human, standing tall, protecting, watching over the small creatures he had saved. The Galactic Confederation was forced to change. They could not ignore what had happened. One human had exposed their failures, showed the universe that every species had value. Lyra children learned the story. How a human from a distant mining colony had risked everything to save a species nobody else wanted. The first generation of rescued Lyra were now leaders. Scientists, historians, they carried the memory of their near extinction, used it to build something stronger. Their scientific knowledge grew quickly. They studied everything, developed technologies that other species found impossible, learned from their near-death experience. Jae-hoon had become more than a person to them. He was a symbol, hope made real. On the 20th anniversary of their rescue, something special happened. The Lyra sent a message, not just to Jae-hoon, but to the entire Galactic Confederation. Their research had discovered something big, a way to clean radiation, restore dying planets, technology that could save worlds that seemed hopeless. The Confederation was shocked. The species they had almost allowed to die had become their most important scientific resource. Jae-hoon received the message on his small research station. He was still exploring, still looking for impossible places, still believing that nothing was truly worthless. The message was simple. We survived. Because of you. Attached were technical documents, scientific breakthrough after scientific breakthrough, proof that the smallest, most ignored species could change everything. The Lyra had done more than survive. They had transformed their near-death into something powerful. Their memorial to Jae-hoon was more than a statue. It was a promise, a commitment to never forget, to always look for value where others saw nothing. Young Lyra would gather around the statue, listen to the story, how one human had risked everything for a species nobody else would help. Survival is not just about staying alive, the elder Lyra would tell them. It's about what you do after you survive. Jae-hoon's story became more than a rescue mission. It became a lesson, a reminder that compassion could change everything. The Galactic Confederation was forced to create new rules, new ways of looking at smaller species, new understanding that value was not just about technology or economic power. On that small planet, life continued, growing, changing, proving that hope could come from the most unexpected places. A human, 50 Lyra, one impossible mission, a civilization reborn. The universe watched and learned.